What's up everyone, and welcome back to HateWatchers as we continue on with our reviews of The Mandalorian. Today we're going over episode 3 entitled The Convert. Let's get right into the breakdown. Spoilers ahead. We begin by returning to the swimming pool we saw last week where Mando is blacked out on Xannies and Whiteclaws. Katan wants to leave quickly so Mando doesn't realize there's a Mythosaur down there. With his power blackout complete, Mando is ready to drive. They blow through a DUI checkpoint and the cops try and chase them down. Flies down toward the planet's surface, and Mando doesn't see this ending well, so he jumps ship. Mando jumps into his own ride to complicate this police chase. Things take a dark turn when they kill the cops, and R5 can't believe it. After Katan's castle gets bombed, a ton of police backup arrives and R5 is floored again as the Mandalorians turn and jump into hyperspace. We move to glitzy Coruscant for the Oscars, where Dr. Pershing has won the award for Best Evil Cloner. He jumps into a science lesson which goes way over the head of the type of people who attend the Oscars. Pershing is the toast of the town and he heads out looking for a spice-fueled after-party. He meets a group of booze hounds on the way and things get weird when he messes up this person's gender. Pershing is settling in for the night with some weird porn on his iPad when he gets ding-dong double-ditched. The next morning we see Pershing's depressing cubicle where the male guy is trying to talk to Pershing like he's a normal, but this timely droid bullies him away. Pershing goes with this individual to the fair where a security probe punks the doc and steals his ice cream. He then goes to robotherapy, where AI tells you how to do better at being a human. Even these robotherapists just listen blankly, give him some meds, and send him on his way. Pershing wants to continue his cloning science, but it'll require him breaking the rules, and nerds like him don't break rules. He goes back to robotherapy, and he's starting to snap from this 9-to-5 bullshit, and he's decided he wants to break bad and he wants to cook meth. They head to the subway station and take that to the edge of town, where they plan to access a mobile meth lab on a decommissioned Imperial ship. Some droids come in to check for tickets, and they jump off the moving subway train to avoid paying. They find an abandoned Star Destroyer, and as they search it, Elia Kane formally introduces they themselves. Pershing finds the meth lab of his dreams.
This is perfect.
They try and make a quick exit, but the fuzz catches up with them, and Pershing gets arrested as we learn that he was set up by they, who's with the space DEA. We move ahead to find Pershing strapped into a compliance device.
You will obey. You will obey.
And Kane turns the device up to 11. We jump back to Mando and Katan, who arrive at the Mandalorian Coven. Paz Vizsla says they're both lame and they can't join their club, but Mando says, dude, I crushed Whiteclaws at the pool. I'm like, pretty cool now. Mando pulls out his empty Whiteclaw as proof, and they let them through. The armorer lets Mando back in, and Katan gets invited into the Cult of Whiteclaw, and the episode comes to an end. Well, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this episode was a great watch or a hate watch. But we're actually giving this episode the debate watch designation, in between great watch and hate watch. The beginning was fantastic. It's more of what we got in the season premiere, the high-flying, laser-blasting Star Wars action that had been gone from Star Wars for so long. And the ending was a step down from that, but still good, and still recognizable as a Star Wars show. But I don't know about that whole middle portion. Dr. Pershing's whole side story didn't feel a whole lot like Star Wars. It felt like Blade Runner mixed with some 1984 at the end. It's fine to have little jaunts where we follow side characters and learn more about their story, and it's fine to take some inspiration from other shows and movies, but you can't do both at the same time. You just end up with this episode that feels out of place and totally takes you out of the main story that was developing with Mando and Bo. And even just when looking at Pershing's story, it dragged on way too long and had a really weird payoff. And that payoff definitely had a 1984 vibe to it, with someone betraying their supposed comrade in favor of the authoritarian state. The one positive to come from this, you could say, is there's a fair bit of world building as we see what it was like for someone to defect from the Empire to the New Republic. Now, why they-them betrays Pershing is anyone's guess at this point. Is they-them trying to cover up what the Doctor did in the past for Moff Gideon? Are they trying to wipe out everything he's learned from being with the New Republic, or his inherent disposition toward wanting to do good, which would allow them to deliver a brilliant Doctor with a blank slate to someone like Moff Gideon or Grand Admiral Thrawn? Who knows? All we can say is that this story took 20 to 30 minutes longer than it needed to, and it better have a significant tie-in with the events to come later this season. Otherwise, this was a massive waste of an episode. Following last week's cliffhanger with the Mythosaur reveal, we got an idea of how that's going to play out when Bo-Katan was being cagey when asking Mando if he saw anything while he was down in the water. She clearly doesn't want him to know that the Mythosaur is there so she can take advantage of it for her own gain. And he says he didn't see it, but who's to say he's telling the truth? And it was interesting to hear Pershing and Kane refer to Taung's Day as the name of one of the days of the week. The Taung were an ancient alien species that were the original natives of Coruscant who were eventually driven from the planet. They would later go on to conquer a new planet under the leadership of a warrior named Mandalore, and their people would go on to become the Mandalorians. So we thought it was kinda cool to see that the days of the week in the Star Wars universe had a similar naming convention to ours, where you have these mythical, godlike figures who the days are named after. Like Thursday is Thor's Day, or Wednesday is Odin's Day, and so on. All taken together, this episode felt clunky as hell, with Pershing's weird story bookended by these great scenes with high-flying Star Wars ship combat and opposing Mandalorian factions coming face to face at a critical time in Mandalorian history. We think that the Mandalorian bits were enough to drag this episode out of Hatewatch territory, but we feel a serious disturbance in the Force, like millions of fans screamed out all at once in boredom with this one. Comment below. What did you think of this episode? Do you think Andor had an influence on this episode which focused on the day-to-day tedium of a regular person in the Star Wars galaxy? How much is too much when you're taking inspiration from other sources like Blade Runner? Please remember to like the video if you liked it and click the subscribe button down below to stay tuned to the channel for the rest of this third season of The Mandalorian, as well as for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.